Hello! Welcome to the live show for 3 Bedrooms, 1 Corpse and the Julius house. Just a wee disclaimer. We're getting the new roof done and they're still working a bit. So if you can hear some banging and clanging or the dog going mental on my end, that's why. Hello, Alice. I've brought my salt with me. Quite right. Quite right. So shall we start with 3 Bedrooms, 1 Corpse then? That was the third book in the series that we read, and just the general thoughts, but we can just jump right into spoilers because we've got the 2 books to chat about.
Mm-hmm.
So I think everybody had the same thoughts on this one. I don't think anybody particularly enjoyed it. I was really disappointed when I read this one, to be honest.
I think that it maybe hasn't aged well, as we were just saying. I've put my book down now. I can't even remember what year it was written. Did we say 1993?
I think 94.
1994. So yeah, it wasn't my favourite Aurora, and I did have a moment when I was reading 3 Bedrooms, 1 Corpse where I thought, why do I like Aurora Teagot? But she wasn't making the best decisions for her life, and it was I think in the mystery was a little, but
Alice says 3 Bedrooms was my least favourite so far. I don't think it aged well at all. It's best we don't get me started on the lust at first sight business.
No, we're going to get you started on the lust at first sight business. Are we into spoilers already?
Yes, jump into spoilers.
Oh, like, I forgot how horrendous Martin is and that engagement. Like, she can't consent to being engaged if you just put a ring on her finger. It was very medieval.
Yes. But see, if that was Eric, we would have been like, yes, King, go do you. Because it's Martin, we're like, absolutely not going to stand for it.
I think that's one of the things you can't help but compare. So I think that definitely reading Suki first and that having that mystical supernatural element to it is sort of made the story like it's better. Our craft's better. What you can see is sort of more defined by she can put it in this supernatural world. So when it's just Martin, who is this CEO of this plant, whatever, do you know what I mean? It didn't come across that well.
Yes.
30 years later.
Alice says Aurora's decisions were so bad. Martin is awful. Why did she throw herself at him immediately? I don't understand that. Like, he just gives me the ick. I feel like he's just like a creepy, controlling older guy who's a bit shady. And I'm like, where is any redeeming quality here? Like, all of the love interests in this have been pretty bad so far. I've not liked any of them. The detective was okay before he binned and got married. Hi, Jem. The saltiness. The saltiness.
Gemma's just here because she's heard that they didn't go down well.
No, they did not. We jump into some of the comments that were made that we feel particularly have not aged well, and a wee bit about the time period that it was written in. So obviously we talk a lot about the police in this one, and particularly around the black estate agent and how he is being pinned for the crime, and people are sort of pointing the finger at him and just assuming it was him because he's basically the only black guy in the village. And so they're like, he did it purely because he was black.
Yeah. And I think it is where there's parts of Charlene Harris's social commentary being fed into our books. If you think this was the early 1990s, when it probably wasn't common for a white author to point out the racism that was going on, whereas now it's more, we've advanced by 30 years. So in a way, like, personally, I can see where she was maybe a little, she was ahead of her time. It just didn't maybe land well, and then definitely hasn't aged well for being wrote in the early 90s. I think when we're all, like, when I realised it's like 30 years old, it's scary, because this is the time period when I was in college and university and stuff like that, and I was thinking, well, what it was like back then. Thankfully, we're 30 years in the future.
I was one. I don't really remember what it was like.
So, yeah, different time period.
Alice says, I feel exactly that about Martin, so he's just gross. I think some of the comments on racism are social commentary for sure, but it just hadn't aged well. I would agree, knowing Charlene Harris's writing, how much social commentary she does try to put in, she probably was trying to make a point, but I don't feel like she had elevated it to the point where she was making it and being like, and like, that's out of order. Like, she just almost made a point and then fixed it.
Because the suspicion was still that it was him. Nobody really then counted that. Well, Aurora had a thought that's not good, but then it was sort of just
vocalize it. So
yeah,
it was
almost
just
that he has to put up with. That's his lot in life.
Totally agree. Alice says she definitely got better at social commentary for sure. Aye.
Yeah, and I think moving our stories into the supernatural world, I think, gives her like more of a free rein rather than in the conventional small town mystery genre.
Mm-hmm. The mystery element in this book was also something that I didn't really enjoy, and I felt like in the first book I loved it. It was so exciting and so engaging. The second book it was like, and then this book I just had absolutely no interest. Like, I couldn't have cared less, and I felt like we spent so much time on Aurora just having dates with Martin, who I couldn't give two fucks about, to like actually get properly invested in the mystery. I was so annoyed about it. Like, I feel like the mystery element was so second place to her relationship with Martin in this book. And I know, like, cozy mysteries typically are heavy on the romance. Fine with that. Like, but the romance needs to be shippable. And like, we also need to have progression of the mystery element. I feel like it was discovered dead body, had 5 dates, discovered a clue, had sex, case solved. Like, I don't feel like there was any real development in here, and I don't feel like there was any real character development for Ro other than she knew has another man. And that's just gunning because like, it was such a great female character.
Yeah, in a way, it feels like, because we've then read the next one as well, it feels more like a filler book where the mystery was second place to I wanting to get Ro to a certain point. And so it's like Martin is just like this old, but he sort of like sweeps her off her feet because she comes across as being quite naive, and when you first meet her, she is quite headstrong, like, you know what I mean, quite opinionated and this way. But by the time, and she, like, it's that she needs him to save her, and she doesn't make good decisions, and he's the savior of it. Like, he'll protect her, and he's going to be there for her. But I don't like him as a character, and maybe because I'm trying not to, but maybe you're not supposed to like him as a character. But that's not expressed in this book. But as we move forward a little bit in the next book, there's some concerns about him as a character that comes out. So it's difficult to talk about just this one book, no what some of the things that happens in the
I know.
one. But the mystery element wasn't strong, I don't think. It's sort of, you know.
Blah. I believe is the technical term you're trying to find. Alice says, I feel like Suki is much more open-minded person. Both her and Ro have grown up in small towns and sheltered lives when we meet them, but Ro is not as open-minded, which could be the age of the book. I thought the mystery was poor. Martin was horrible, and I don't understand the attraction. When Aurora runs off to solve the case, it was ridiculous. What on earth did she think she was doing? The stupidity and Philip's character too. I agree. Like, we saw the first book, and she was like so headstrong, and like she knew her stuff, and like was doing some proper decent sleuthing. Whereas in these ones, I felt like it's like she's just putting herself in harm's way, and it
Yeah.
doesn't really make sense.
And in the earlier ones, when she got to that point, she would ring and ask for help, or there was something that she was doing that she was in control of it. It's like she completely lost all of her senses and thought, I'm going to put myself in the most dangerous situation that I can and not let. I mean, this is the 90s. There wasn't mobile phones and things either. Do you know what I mean? So it's just like, I'm just going to go to the place that I. Do you know what I mean? It's just, you know.
Martin's just fucking gross. I also can't read one mere sentence detailing just quite how wee Ro is. Like, I swear to God, every time I read it, I feel myself getting angrier and angrier and angrier. Like, I get it, she's wee. It doesn't need to be described 1,000 times. Like, and I feel like, why are we talking about how wee she is? Like, is this going to be a plot point at some point? Like, but
I don't know whether it's because you can potentially read them as standalones as well as in a series. So there is that sort of, you can understand a little bit at the beginning where there has to be some description of something that, do you know what I mean? But it does seem to be sort of a focus that's just so small, and these people are so tall.
I hate it. It's so annoying. At the end of this one, I understood why I only got to the end of it for the first time. I mean, the only nod towards sense was leaving a note.
Not that anybody could. I mean, what's the chances of finding it?
I know. I think we got the point of how tiny she was when the gross guy in the supermarket wanted to pick her up in book one. Why are all the guys so creepy? Like, is this just how they were in the 90s? Like, have we actually improved since then? Like, or what has happened? So gross.
I wanted to ask Sam whether this is really what Southern America's like.
I know,
sort of
like
this dating scene where you can be the vicar's. Was he described as a beau or something, like a date? And you know what I mean? But then they have these really deep conversations, and they just then meet someone and off they go. Like, he decides he wants to have a family, so he goes and gets with the single mother and stuff. It's just random. Like,
it's so random. Like, it just doesn't make sense for any of the characters. And then I suppose we spoke about this a wee bit, but the whiplash engagement / wedding.
I forgot that she actually married Martin so fast. I think I maybe even forgot that she married him. Maybe it's because it was the night, like, that was the thing to do. This is why I wanted to ask Sam. I might ask her in the group chat. Is this like a Southern thing that you meet someone and you sort of the wedding? Because it sort of happens in Suki world as well. People meeting like quite quick in these the marry. I don't know whether it's like that Christian background thing. I mean, Suki never, do you know what I mean? She was a bit different, but Rose seems to have been like, oh, woke up and there's a diamond ring on your finger, like, oh.
And I feel like book one, Ro, she was like, I've got my own house, like, I'm quite independent, I've got my library job, I've also got some side work that I do for my mum. And then all of a sudden, because she just got some money and a house given to her that she was like, oh well, fuck it, I'm not going to work anymore. And apparently giving up her job made her totally want to change the direction of her entire life, and then she just wanted to become a housewife. Sorry. I just feel like that's no believable character development.
I mean, I won't be very good as a housewife, but I think if I had enough money, then I could. Like, I don't really want to work. But then she regrets leaving the library. She talks about how she misses the library a lot.
Know enough to know just want to do everything that will please our Martin,
Yeah.
who reminds me of Del Boy. Like, see, when I read it, that's who I picture in my head, because he's just so seedy and shady, and like I just feel like he's on the scam. So that's just who I picture.
Well, that's the next book, isn't it?
Where 90s guys, perverts, and weirdos discuss.
I've just actually read Shy by Max Porter, and one of the things, because that's set in the 90s, is about it's only a short book, 120 pages, about a young lad in the 90s, and there's a lot of, well, not a lot, but there's some commentary in that book about the lad culture. So I think in the UK, possibly wouldn't call them all that, do you know what I mean? But there was that lad culture, like that FHM culture, which you're probably too young to even know what it is, and the need for women to be ladettes, which I never really sort of understood. Just so I'm just wondering whether it was the same in America, just a different thing, possibly a man of his time.
Maybe. No, a man was like, though. He got engaged while unconscious and still went through with the wedding. I know, I think that's so weird. So weird. Laughing out loud, oh well, fuck it, I'm just gonna go be a housewife. So I feel like we spoke a lot about Martin. I did give him his own segment. I feel like
I haven't got anything else to say about
it. Quite enough. Well, maybe no. Wait till the next book. Is anybody any other comments about 3 bedrooms, 1 corpse before we move on to the Julius house?
I think we'll probably we'll move on.
Martin is the worst. For sure does.
Martin doesn't get any better.
No. So, general thoughts on the Julius house then? What did you think?
If back in the day in the 90s, if you read it as a standalone, it probably was a product of its time. Going back and rereading it later, we're 30 years in the future, we'll move on.
I enjoyed it. I thought the first half was...
Oh, I'm talking about the other book.
You did a nut job. What did you think of
the Julius? I think the mystery was better.
I agree.
The mystery was more of a mystery and putting those plot points together, and bringing in the new characters for her. So I think it was a better book, but I'm not entirely convinced about this Whiplash wedding. I think at one point I even forgot the word. Even when I was reading the book this time, I was like, has the wedding happened yet? And I think there was a lot of I've got so much money I can just go and buy a farm, and I've got so much money I can go and do this. And that was a little...
I know. She's acquiring hussies at the rate of knots. I think she's had 5 hussies in a farm since we started the series. What?
Yeah. I think maybe Rose's life per se isn't really gelling or aging well, and the decisions that she's making, but the mystery was sort of back on point.
I agree. I think the first half of this one was pretty poor. I didn't really enjoy it, and I was like, "Oh, here we go." But then the second half of the book was much better, and I personally think it's because Martin wasn't in it.
And I think that it did take a while for that mystery element to kick in, where I think I would have preferred for the mystery to be running completely alongside it. And so, and the things that were happening, which has brought out then this big sort of, do you know what I mean? We'll probably be banned from YouTube for saying it, but like I traffic things that go bang bang, and she seems to be like quite, oh, okay. At the end, like, what are you thinking?
I know. Alice says, "Roll on Martin's untimely death, please." Bored to tears by the first half of it. How bloody much did we need to hear about that wedding? But the second half I did enjoy. Good mystery. We had Ro actually investigating something and getting to do it without creepy Martin, and I really liked Angel. The next book, 5 houses, 1 farm. It should be.
Yeah, I just think it was like weird that they do a lot of these things. They sort of have these two separate lives. Like she has a separate life to Martin, and then they go and do random things. Like she buys him his farm and pretends to be someone else to be able to buy it, and buys it in cash, so there's no like worries about it. At the same time, popping in and buying flowers that she for her mum, so she could go meet the ex-wife, but then she forgot that she'd sent her mum flowers. Like, I mean, my memory's bad. I would remember something like that. Do you know what I mean? It's just a bit like, really? But I do like Angel. I think Angel's a good female character. And I'm sure if we lived in a supernatural world, Angel would be an angel.
For sure.
Like a proper fighting angel, not one of the pretend like fluffy angels.
What did we think about the new characters then? What's Angel's man's name? I forget.
Angel's man.
That's what he's getting called for now.
I can't remember. But see, it was a bit like all of a sudden they're supposed to be building this house, like this new home for themselves, this family, just them two. But I've told someone that they can rent the thing, and it's just conveniently that he's bought this house because that's there, so that he can move them in, and like all of that goes on. Alice, what's his name? Alice will know. Alice has got a good memory. And it just did seem a little bit too...
She says she thinks he was called Sheldon, but
he was called Sheldon. Where are we on to? I don't even know where I'd find out. Now I'm just thinking of Sheldon from Big Bang, and he doesn't fit that. Shelby. You know, yeah, better than me. I'm just going to think of Sheldon of Big Bang throughout the books now. It's that, and that's not the same type of character that Shelby is.
But it could be quite funny. It'll maybe add another element to your read.
We've got Del Boy and Sheldon.
I just couldn't get characters. We are jitters about the wedding and a ridiculous decision to not ask him about his life first, knowing full well that he was dodgy. Completely agree.
Yeah.
Such a good choice. And then when his job was revealed, she got really angry at him. The time to ask was before you got married.
Yeah. And I think as well, because then there was sort of people who were worried, but they'd let her get married before they were like saying, oh yeah, we've got concerns about him. Wouldn't you like...
I know, properly and be like, listen, I really like Angel. I don't really know enough about Shelby to decide whether I like him or no as a character, to be honest. I don't feel like the focus was on him. I feel like it was really on Angel. But I felt like Ro again was really, really naive when it came to them coming on the scene. Like, if I just married Simon and he was like, oh, by the way, two of my pals are moving in, I'd be like, what? Excuse me?
And they're going to come over and help you. Just ask them to do things.
They're New Year assistants just so that they can live in the house. Like, what? What's going on? And I just feel like she was so naive about it. And then when the time came where she was like, right, no, I need some answers. Like, it was just, I agree with Alice, like, it was far too late. Like, you should have been asking this stuff before you decided to settle down with him. Before you were buying each other houses and deciding to live with each other. Like, because your lives are completely entangled now. Like, and before you accept these two shady characters living in your gaff. Like, what is going on? But I did like Angel, so.
Yeah. What did you think of, I don't know what your next thing is going to be.
Hi, we're your new bodyguards. My next thing was just going to be another one on Martin. So we obviously find out about his dodgy dealings in this book. And I was really shocked with Rose's reaction. An initial reaction, her anger and stuff, understandable. And I feel like is pretty true to her character. But then it's almost like as soon as she's heard it, she's just like, all right, well, I'm immediately fine. Like, after her initial outburst, like, what is going on? Also, see, one of the bits in the book that really irked me, right? See when she nearly gets murdered, and then, like, the guy's away, and then, like, she says, Martin's like, oh, like, I didn't know if you're going to be angry with me, or blah, blah, blah. Like, and then they just go away up the stairs for a pump. Like, you've nearly just died. You've just found out your husband runs guns for a living. And you're like, oh yes, take me to bed. So unbelievable. Like, I would be fuming. And if I was just nearly murdered, I'd need a cup of tea or a drink before I could even consider anything else.
And the bodyguards living there.
I know, that's also weird. Maybe they'll swing in a couple of books' time.
And a completely different type of series.
Maybe if we get sapphic and it's Rowan Angel and ship it, and we can just get away with the guys.
Oh, can't turn down a bedroom visit.
That's it.
I think it is, though. There has to be some in the book somewhere. The romance element. But
no. I don't even feel, though, that their relationship is very romantic. Like, it's all been very rushed, and it's also secretive that I feel like who's actually getting any enjoyment out of that as a reader. Like, I obviously don't read a lot of romance, as we know, but like, if I'm into a romance, like, I want them to like love each other so much they want to die for each other. Like, Martin would die for nobody. Like, he does not love her that much, and like, there hasn't been any like pining or wooing or any of that. It was just immediately, oh, hello, you're attractive, let's get married. Like,
yeah, it's like, I'm rich and can spend this money on you and take you to these fancy restaurants and do these nice things, and because I'm rich, you like your friends and family you like us because I'm rich, because I'm this person in the society. I'm like at the top of the ladder, and I'll be with you. So it's just like,
it's interesting that you talk about like our family and our friends liking him because he's rich, because I totally feel that way about our mum. Like, her mum legit has an opinion on everything, and although she had says like, oh, like, do you know what you're getting into type of thing, she never once tried to dissuade her, really, and was never really like, he's like pure shady or he's really, really dodgy. And I do think it's because of the amount of money he has and the amount of social standing he's got that she's just almost willing to compromise, like, on having an opinion or try to dissuade him to marrying him, because she finds him to be the most suitable partner that she's been with, which is just weird to me.
Yeah, and it is, and I just don't know whether that's what it was, like rich people problems.
We would never know.
I don't know.
No. At this point, Ro would be better off with Angel. Her tasting guys is the worst. I don't even feel like Martin and Ro know each other. It's just lust. Totally agree. And like, what is there to be lustfully? Like, he's away half the time. So like, it's not really like you're getting your whole a lot. But like, all right, cool. He bought you another house, but you already had two.
Oh,
What is there to be attractive? And as well, like, Charlene Harris keeps talking about like how much older he is as well. So she's properly trying to push him across as like being a distinguished older gentleman, and that
yeah.
me creep vibes. I'm like, no.
It's like when you've just said that, it's like, do you know when you read like Jane Austen and they go to the debutante ball, and there's always the older, distinguished newcomer to the community who
Yeah.
want to marry the young.
Aye. It's icky.
I was looking for the word when I stopped at young and I couldn't think of a word. But you know what I mean, like the young debutantes. The young debutantes. It did give off that sort of vibe when you just mentioned that in hindsight.
I would marry row off to the highest bidder for sure. He is a creep. So, should we talk a wee bit about the mystery element in this book then?
Because I think the mystery element was a lot stronger in this book than the previous book, and it had more of that investigative, this is what's happened, sort of, and like all of these things going on and having to try and put the puzzle pieces together. And I think that is more what I've enjoyed in the other mysteries, and that sort of the real Murders Club has sort of taken a back seat, but she's got Angel now, and she was at like parties when she was getting information from like the older lady who was like sharing information about the house and the families who'd been there. So it was more of that amateur sleuth mystery this time.
I agree, and I thought that it was good that you almost had like the two mysteries in tandem, like the Julius house mystery, which was obviously historic, and then like currently who's after her and why. And so I thought that that was really interesting as well, and it really helped push the plot compared to the last one that felt quite sluggish. I feel like this one went quite a bit quicker, the second half, not the first.
And I'm a bit hazy with what happens, but I'm hoping that's what pushes through into the I'm hoping that's why I read the rest of them. Like we've had this dip, but then the sort of go back into that more mystery. I'm a detective, because I was struggling. Like, why do I like Aurora Teagon? And I obviously did, because I read the whole. I read them all, and even when they'd finished and then came back out, I read them as they came back out the next two. So I'll be intrigued to find out why. At some point, I'll go, this is why.
Like the mystery, like the twist, and who was actually found when the bodies turned up.
Yeah, that was a good twist.
Aye.
Finding them actually on the property.
That was the thing that stuck in her head, where she was like, no, there's something not right with these wigs here. And she just kept going back to it, and that was what was unraveling it. I thought that was really cool. Because it is always like the wee simple details sometimes that catch somebody out in a lie. And so I think it's cool that it was that.
Yeah. And I think that the previous mystery, that there was elements of that in it, because she remembered a painting that should have been somewhere, or something, or a vase that should have been somewhere, or whatever. So she relies on sort of our memory to just pick up these details that other people don't. But this one was, I like it when she puts all of our pieces together and doesn't go alone when she's ultimately attacked by the murderer, because that's what she does.
Of course. I'm hoping that we go in a better direction with amateur detecting from here on. I hope so as well. What I think would be so cool is that if, unfortunately, she stays with Martin, if he's away on business a lot or whatever, and he's trying to like wrap all these things up, he's maybe away, and like her and Angel do like a wee PI sitch, and they're I think that would be so cool. That would be brilliant, because I just really like their relationship. It was very reminiscent to me of like Suki's relationship with Pam a bit, and like I obviously really love their relationship, so I think that it was cool that she was involved.
Yeah. And I think Angel gives Ro sort of more of that confidence about being a woman that she doesn't have at the minute, sort of thing. And that because Ro ended up like helping her sort of thing and building that relationship on them. Like she wouldn't go on the roof because she's scared of heights, so it was Ro who was actually up on the roof. Like that sort of balance, wasn't it, of just being a good team? Like
The wig clue was great. It felt like a proper sleuth moment. And if in the course of detecting Martin happens to be bumped off, I'm here for it. Me too. Me too. Like, surely this can't be the ultimate romance. Like, there's got to be something better. There's got to be.
my hazy memories of it.
That is everything that I have got to say on the Julius house. Anything else that you would like to add?
No, I'm just thinking that we're jumping ahead to Dead Over Heels, which was 1996. So I'm interested to see sort of what's ahead. And I think I remember the beginning of this one,
Oh, exciting.
if I'm not mistaken, and I think you might enjoy the beginning if it's the one I'm thinking of.
Next book, Dead Over Heels. Excellent. And Alice is saying, I like how Rose seemed to click that she is a strong woman too. Aye, hopefully Angel will help bring that out more and we'll get to see maybe that side of things from her.
Hopefully.
Well, thank you very much for joining, everybody. I'm going to start the next one right away.
I think I might have read the beginning of this one. I've just seen that pop up, but you've already read it.
Oh, well, I'm in the dark here, so I'm going to go read the beginning of it right now.
So, was the beginning quite eventful, Alice? Oh, I think she means she started it before but didn't finish it. Not that she started it now. I think.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll all go and listen or read the first couple of chapters of it.
Absolutely. See you after.
Bye.
Bye.